Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rise of the Phoenix, and check out this crazy Theoden versus Sauron battle report. And I want to quickly pull up the Sauron's gear to show you guys that this is not your everyday average Sauron. This is a very well geared Sauron with a good skill build. If you want to know how to get the most value out of your Theoden, then stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce to you a special guest for this video. Thanatos has been the co-leader of the Disciples of Ungoliant ever since we started 7 or 8 months ago. He's an amazing leader and very strong player. I wanted to bring him on for this video because he has one of the strongest, if not the absolute strongest Theoden on our server. So first of all, Thanatos, why did you choose to use Theoden? What are some of his strengths and weaknesses?
So first of all, let me say hi to everyone and let me give a little shout out to our members in Ungo, in Disciples of Ungoliant. And let me answer real quick to you, Phoenix. Why did I choose Theoden? Well, Theoden for me is one of the strongest commanders on the good side, especially when you start in season 1 again. And then I'll say that his pure strength is that he rides well the current meta of the game, which it relies on horses. And what can I say about his weaknesses? Well, I'll talk about his weaknesses at the end because this is a video regarding him now.
That's fair. All right, so let's talk about the skill build that you have chosen to use. We have 15 in Rohirrim, Eored Leader, and Horsemaster. So why those titles in particular?
Yeah, let me just do a quick intro. Like Theoden, when you have him at R0, R1, R2, is not a particularly strong commander. At R3, he starts doing something, but his full potential is with his R5 title, which is Horsemaster. He gives basically 15 attack on mounted units, on every single mounted unit, and his special bonus, it gives 5 HP. I chose those 3 main skills because if you combine Horsemaster with Rohirrim, that stacks up damage with the speed attribute of their troops and also gives some healing with Arid Leader. This with his sub skills that are Riding Excellence and Chaotic Retreat that lowers defense of the enemy. This feels like a commander that boosts his troops, boosts their attack. It lowers the enemy's defense and also heals. And if you consider this, and also he has an ability which is called Mounted Combat that has the possibility to deal an additional damage by their troops every round with a 20% probability. This thing, if it hits hard.
Yeah, and the other kind of interesting thing about mounted combat that I found out recently is if you're in those first rounds of combat and your unit procs that extra damage for mounted combat, the game considers it another attack and will actually stack up those Rohirrim stacks a little bit faster. So I thought that was like pretty awesome when I found that out when I was messing around with Eomer. So I think it's actually a pretty underrated skill overall.
Yeah, and I could also point out that if you look at my skill build, I also have 1 point in cleave, which is for 1 point is a good effective commander damage attack with its effect is based on speed. And also, why not? I give it 1 point in Vow of Protection, which gives Theoden more speed and initiative during combat.
Yeah, and I think that will make sure that his heal always goes off first, which can be important during madness rounds against commanders like Grima that have madness later on in combat. you can heal and then you'll become mad, and that could be pretty important in cases like that. So I definitely think it's worth the 1 point for sure.
There's also a side theory about his skill, the Renewed, but I think that is not a great skill tree unless you have a really high respect Theoden, like respect 20 or 21, because you need like 14 points to remove one random debuff, which occasionally occurs against evil factions. I mean, his reinforcement skill does give more healing, but here we're talking about a really high respect Theoden, a really wailed out Theoden, basically.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think like you were saying, those other three titles, Rohirrim, Aerid Leader, and especially Horse Master, you're just going to get more bang for your buck in those because those are always going to help you out. Whereas the Renewed is a lot more situational.
And also point out that he has leader as a skill as a commander, so he has 5 more command points to add to their troops. So basically, his troop size is bigger than some other commanders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely very important for a commander like Theoden, who is going to completely rely on his army in order to deal damage. So, as for your itemization choice, we can talk about that real quick, starting with the cutlass.
Yeah, basically, the cutlass is one of the best, if not the best, purple weapon in the game. Let's be clear, because it adds on those 15 attack points that Theoden adds to his troops. It gives 3 plus attack to their melee units, and it also increases by 9% the damage dealt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
We can talk about his R10 weapon, but I think that is really more specific if you are in a faction like Rohan,
all right, let
due
me
to
go
his
ahead and
bonus.
let me get that pulled up real quick. Then R10 weapon is, I have no idea how to pronounce this. Harugrim, I guess. So might and speed is the same as the cutlass. It looks like you're trading off extra attack for health, but like you were just saying, Lord of the Mark applies specifically to light cavalry, outriders, cavaliers, and importantly, if you're Rohan, marshals. So yeah, I think I agree with you in saying that definitely a viable option for Rohan. I don't know that I would use it as other factions. I tend to value the attack stat as the best stat in the game, so it's kind of another mark against Harugrim. Although Theoden's army is already doing insane damage anyway, so I don't think you can really go wrong with having the extra HP if you wanted to invest in that weapon. But it's going to be way more expensive than a purple cutlass, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely more. If you account also that to strengthen it, you need gold
Mm-hmm.
weapons, and to refine it, you need purple mithril. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a really, really big spender, it could be viable for sure, but I think that is more cost efficient, the cutlass, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely makes sense. And then I guess I can pull up a Reach of the Rittermark. What's your opinion on that versus a cutlass?
Yeah, that would be even better. Actually, I think it would position between the cutlass and his R10 weapon, the Reach of the Riddlemark. I honestly never pulled one, so I just seen it from reports of other people. But if I'm not mistaken, it also had defense to mounted units. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's might speed and then army speed mounted units, and it can come with might of cavalry, which is like a little bit better than melee might, in my opinion, since it affects all mounted units to include bow knights, whereas cutlass is only melee might and melee army attack.
Yeah, but still, the answer is always the same: gold weapons, unless you're super lucky or you're a big spender. Gold weapons are hard to strengthen and they're hard to refine.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think So I have a 2-star Reach of the Rittermark, and I've never seen another one. So I've never even been able to refine this at all, which is pretty crazy. So, all right, and let's go back to that report. And we'll talk about your chest piece choice.
Well, I went with the Scout's Mail, and the Scout's Mail actually has two really good abilities on it. One is Shroud, and the other one, which I don't remember the name, let me check it real quick. It should boost the speed. So it's
Oh
deftness.
yeah, deafness. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But still, it increases commander's speed. So I went with Shroud because there's a reason behind that. The reason behind that I went with Shroud is that my units have a 60% chance to evade the first instance of damage. And this means that when I go against a really strong first round opponent, like it could be like a Gandalf or a Witch King, that with their convener, they usually stun all the units and then they super hit hard in the first 2 rounds.
Yep.
I try to lower that number from 4 attacks to 3 with the evasion.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think it's a really, really great ability. And I think a lot of people kind of hate on the improved shroud ability on items, but I think especially against those powerful round 1 and round 2 commanders, improved shroud is pretty strong because normal shroud you only get to avoid once or evade once. Improved shroud, in theory, you could evade all the hits during that very first round, which is pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, true. And the Scout's Mail is also perfect for Theoden because on Theoden you basically need might and speed. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Might and speed.
Absolutely. Then Horseman's Helm, you have one with Resolve. Do you have a stun immunity and a madness immunity one that you switch between, or do you always run the madness immunity one?
Okay, so basically the Horseman helm, I think it's probably one of the best, if not the best, helmet on Theoden. And I have a 3-star refined madness immunity helm, as shown in that report. And I also have another 3-star refined Horseman helm with stun immunity. And
Okay.
in addition to that, I'm building a Cask of the Submerged Island with the Aegis ability, which is supposed to be a gold helmet with stun and madness immunity for, let me check it real quick. For the first 4 rounds, each round has a chance to gain stun immunity and madness immunity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That thing is
And
crazy.
basically, yeah, and I think that basically the Horseman help and the way I set up my equipment, it gives me the ability to either go against a Sauron, which is primary attack points are obviously madness.
Mm-hmm.
So getting my units or my commander mad. And the stun immunity one is specific to most notably the Witch King,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously we know that he stuns his opponent, or even all the Nazguls with the Ring Wraith ability, uh, and they're stunned, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, but most probably, if I had to choose, the Madness immunity would be best because most of evil commanders usually run Madness. So.
Yeah. And I think in Theoden's case, his army is doing so much damage that it can just completely shred itself during those madness rounds. Whereas if you eat around a stun, yeah, that sucks, but the fight's not over. Whereas if you just kill yourself during madness, the fight is over and GG.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and then for the accessory slot, you have a Night Star with Tactical Mark.
Yeah, this is probably not the best accessory for Theoden, but I don't want to be bold, but I don't value this much my accessories for two
Mm.
reasons. I had a bad luck with my accessory pulls, and I never had a hit lane.
You've never
So
even
that
gotten
would be,
one?
I've never got a hit lane on this account.
Oh man, yikes!
Uh, And basically, the point is that Ithlane would be great because I think it could give speed, if I remember correct, and might. I'm not too sure. I need to ask you on that.
I think it's might and focus, but importantly, it has army HP, which is really great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Night Star, basically, it's a really good accessory. Obviously, it's gold, so it's hard to refine, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But the tactical mark ability, it gives me the ability to gain pursuit and to go against commanders that use evasion as their main focus of defending. So in my head, I might think of a Gilgalad. I might think of an Undying.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Gosmog, Grima.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So correct me if I'm wrong, or I don't know if you know. Suppose we could check the combat log real quick to be sure. So is the pursuit effect a 100% chance in those first 3 rounds, and then on top of that, it's a 5% chance for max damage?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
It says here, first 3 rounds, all allies gain pursuit, so I might say that is a certain, and 5% chance to cause maximum damage each round.
See if I can find it real quick in the combat log. Um, Damage range did not affect. That's fine. Yep, Cavalier attacks in pursuit. Swan Knight attacks in pursuit. Bree Rider attacks in pursuit. Awesome. Yeah. Actually, the first time I read that, I thought that the pursuit was only a 5% chance as well. But knowing that it's a 100% chance for pursuit actually makes that quite useful for sure. For sure. All right. As far as the army composition goes, what sort of troop setups do you like to run?
So basically, I tend to use two types of troop compositions with him. And one is basically against 200 or plus level tiles, which is cataphracts, cavaliers, and bow knights. And obviously, bow knights, sorry, are there because they gain a huge advantage from from Theoden Horsemaster ability, and usually 200 plus tiles are obviously full of trolls, and bow knights have the 50% increased damage on them on trolls, so it probably makes them like 80, 85 damage to trolls per attack per unit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then for PvP, especially for, let's say, the big guys like a Sauron or an Undying or even a Witch King, I tend to use, now that we're playing Gondor, I use the Swan Knights, the Cavaliers, and the Bree Riders. And for one simple reason, the Swan Knights are there for tanking because they tend to defend the other troops for the first 2 rounds, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, first three,
With
but yeah, yeah.
first three, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Cavaliers and the Bree Riders, obviously, they just are protected for the first 3 rounds by the Swan Knights, and they just attack at will and basically destroy what they find in their path, because basically they gain something like 60 to 63 damage per attack. Let me check it real quick.
Looks
Um
like Cavaliers 53 to
yeah.
61 and Bree
53
Rider.
to 61 and Bree Riders 55 to 60.
It's a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. And obviously Swan Knights are there just to die, basically, and then those two guys flank the other sides and destroy what everything they say on their front, basically.
That makes sense. And they're
But
also all melee units, which get the benefit from your cutlass, which is pretty huge as well. The melee might
yeah,
and
that's
the
true.
army attack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Theoden. Obviously, it's a T2 respect to Elwyn, which she's really good, but her bonus, especially her R5 bonus, which is the big healing White Lady of Rohan. Oh no, sorry, where is it?
Yeah, White
Um,
Lady. That's right. That's her R5. The heal
oh
and then the
yeah,
stun immune. Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, she improves the. Oh no, sorry, it was my mistake. I thought she was improving melee.
Well, she has an extra heal that only affects melee units.
Oh yeah,
Is
you're
probably
right.
what you're
Yeah,
thinking
frontline
of.
rescue.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. I think in some ways even better than Theoden for some things, but Theoden on the edge of its versatility. Let's say with all the mounted um, units that it can use, which are not a lot in the game, but are still they're still enough. He can shred everything he sees in front of him.
Yeah.
And would also point out that with his speed, he's faster than all commanders on the battlefield. And we know how bouncing and taking tiles before the opponent is key to winning some fights and wasting the opponent's stamina.
Yeah, yeah. Getting your army to land can sometimes be half the battle, and if you have all cavalry units, you're just flying around, and you're really able to pick your fights in a way that, like an evil commander with trolls can't necessarily, have that same type of mobility advantage going on. All right. Well, do you have any final thoughts? Anything that you would like to share before we wrap it up?
I'll just say this. I'll say that Theoden, for the first 2 seasons of the game, is probably the best commander in the battlefield. If you exclude the best commander overall, which is, in my opinion, the Witch King,
Mm-hmm.
he's definitely the best on good side. He's relatively, I'm not saying cheap, but it's easier to get than a T3, like a really good T3.
Mm-hmm.
He pairs really well with Gandalf at the start of the season, but people started figuring how to beat Theoden down, and then in S3 and S4, we're seeing less and less Theodens because obviously cavalry is expensive. It takes a long time to conscript their units. And so people always are even varying their commanders, and Theoden is not as used as much in S3 as in S2, but still is a really, really strong commander. Definitely top 5 commanders in the game, and probably top 2 in good side.
And so, what are you like? Are you scared of fighting any commanders with your Theoden? Like, what kind of gives you headaches or nightmares?
Oh, definitely. I have 2 nightmares. One is a big one and one is a small one. I'm
Okay.
not fully afraid of Witch King because I know that my Theoden, with a stun immunity helm and with the shroud ability on the Scout's Mail, can still take out a pretty draw against the Witch King, even
Mm-hmm.
strong ones. It would obviously lose a lot, and edge to edge would lose in the fight, but would not be annihilated by him. On the other hand, what I'm really scared of is Khaldun. Khaldun is probably, in my opinion, like top 3 evil side commanders, and when I face him, it's like I always lose more than what I kill. It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
my nightmare.
Khaldun, he's crazy, man. He's so good for, especially he's a tier 1. Like, it's so easy to take him to respect 10 and beyond. It's just madness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I'll pull up your equipment and skill build one last time in case anybody wants to take a screenshot of it before the video ends. Thanks for being here, and thank you for everything that you've done for Ungo and helping me lead this crazy band of misfits to a lot of really good victories in our seasons and hopefully continued victories. And that's it for this video, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Rise of the Phoenix, over and out.